The assignment. Marcus Vale stood at attention before the gleaming crystalline spires of the Lyrian embassy on Earth, his military training evident in every controlled movement. The morning sun caught the edges of his formal suit, carefully chosen to conceal the advanced combat gear underneath. After 15 years of military service and 5 as a private security consultant, this assignment was unlike anything he'd encountered. The embassy doors parted with a soft chime, revealing Ambassador Kalzara, her iridescent skin catching the light in ways that still captivated human observers. "Mr. Vale," she greeted him, her translator perfectly rendering her musical language into English. "The council has reviewed your credentials extensively. Please, follow me." Marcus followed her through corridors that seemed to shift and flow, a testament to Lyrian architectural mastery. The ambassador's movements were graceful but tense. Whatever this assignment was, it had the usually composed Lyrians on edge. "You understand, Mr. Vale, that this position is unprecedented," Kalzara said as they approached a secure chamber. "Never before has a human been entrusted with such a responsibility within our society." "I understand, Ambassador," Marcus replied evenly. "Though I admit, the details of my assignment have been rather sparse." Kalzara paused before a shimmering door. "You are about to meet my daughters, Arya and Nova. They are next in line to lead the Lyrian assembly. Recent events have made their protection a matter of utmost importance." The door dissolved, revealing a chamber that took Marcus's breath away. 2 Lyrian figures stood by a window overlooking Earth's horizon. They turned in perfect synchronization, and Marcus understood why the Lyrians were called the most beautiful species in known space. The twins possessed the characteristic iridescent skin of their people, but theirs shifted through colors like aurora borealis. Their eyes held the wisdom of their ancient race, yet sparkled with undisguised curiosity. "So this is the human warrior who will be our guardian," said one of them, Arya, Marcus would later learn. Her tone carried neither disdain nor warmth, merely careful observation. "I've studied human combat techniques," Nova added, stepping forward. "They are unconventional, but effective." Marcus maintained his professional demeanor, though he noticed subtle differences between the twins. Arya's colors shifted in cooler tones, blues and silvers, while Nova's ran warmer, golds and roses. Their movements, while both graceful, told different stories. Arya moved like a diplomat, measuring each step. Nova had the fluid motion of someone trained in combat. "Ladies," Marcus bowed slightly. "I look forward to ensuring your safety." Ambassador Kalzara's colors darkened slightly, concern, Marcus had learned. "There have been attempts on their lives. 3 in the past month. Our traditional security measures have proven inadequate. The old ways aren't enough anymore, Mother," Nova said, her colors flickering with frustration. "The threats we face are changing." Marcus caught the underlying currents. The Lyrians were facing something new, something their ancient protocols couldn't handle. They'd turned to a human not just for protection, but for a different way of thinking. "I'll need complete access to your security systems, detailed reports of the previous attempts, and authorization to implement new protocols," Marcus stated firmly. "Impossible," Arya responded immediately. "Many of our systems are sacred, unchanged for millennia. Then they're predictable," Marcus cut in, earning shocked looks from all 3 Lyrians. "Your attackers know your patterns. We need to change them." Nova's colors shifted to an interested amber. "He's right, sister. Our traditions won't protect us from those who've learned to exploit them." Ambassador Kalzara raised her hand, silencing further discussion. "You will have what you need, Mr. Vale. But remember, my daughters are not just their lives, they are our future. Our ways may seem rigid to you, but they have preserved our civilization for eons." Marcus nodded, understanding the immense responsibility being placed on his shoulders. He wasn't just protecting 2 individuals, he was being trusted with the heritage of an ancient civilization. "When do we begin?" Nova asked, her eagerness barely contained. "We already have," Marcus replied, his eyes scanning the room's security measures. "Your attackers are watching. Every moment from now on is part of their education in failure." Arya's colors shifted to a thoughtful purple. "You speak with great confidence, Mr. Vale." "Not confidence," he corrected. "Determination. There's a difference." As Marcus began his preliminary security assessment, he couldn't shake the feeling that this assignment would change more than just his career. The way Nova watched his movements with tactical interest, how Arya analyzed his every word, the weight of Ambassador Kalzara's trust, it all pointed to something larger than a simple protection detail. He was stepping into a world of ancient powers and modern threats, where the future of two species might rest on his ability to bridge their differences. And somewhere out there, watching and waiting, were forces that had already proven willing to kill to shape that future. Marcus smiled slightly. They had no idea what they were up against. After all, humanity had survived and thrived by doing the impossible, and he intended to keep that tradition alive. Hidden threats. 2 weeks into his assignment, Marcus knew 3 things with absolute certainty. First, the attempts on the twins' lives were more sophisticated than anyone had admitted. Second, Nova's combat training went far beyond the basic defense he'd been told about. And third, someone inside the Lyrian embassy was helping the assassins. He stood in the embassy's security center, surrounded by holographic displays showing every corner of the massive complex. Nova practiced combat forms in the training chamber, her movements a mesmerizing blend of Lyrian grace and lethal precision. In the diplomatic wing, Arya conducted a virtual meeting with off-world dignitaries, her diplomatic skills making the complex negotiations seem effortless. "You've changed things," Ambassador Kalzara observed, entering the center. Her tone carried neither approval nor criticism, merely statement. "Had to," Marcus replied, gesturing to a display showing the new security patterns he'd implemented. "Your old protocols were beautiful, Ambassador. Like a dance everyone knew the steps to, including your enemies." "Some call it sacrilege," she said softly. "Allowing a human to alter traditions that predate your species' ability to make fire." Marcus turned to face her fully. "With respect, Ambassador, traditions that can't adapt become tombstones." Before she could respond, an alert flashed across the screens. Marcus's modifications had detected an unauthorized access attempt in the embassy's communication systems. His fingers flew across the controls, tracing the intrusion. "Clever," he muttered. "They're using Lyrian diplomatic codes, but the access pattern is all wrong. No Lyrian would request data in this sequence." Nova appeared at his side, still flushed from her training. "Show me," she demanded, her colors shifting to alert copper tones. Marcus highlighted the pattern. "Lyrians process information in spiral patterns, your brains are wired for it. This sequence is linear. Human thinking trying to mimic Lyrian protocols. You can tell all that from a data access pattern." Arya's voice came from behind them. She'd silently entered during their discussion. "Had to learn how your people think to protect you properly," Marcus replied, still tracking the intrusion. "Right now, that knowledge is telling me we have a human conspirator working with Lyrian insider knowledge." The implications hung heavy in the air. A human working against Lyrian interests could shatter the fragile diplomatic relations between their species. But a Lyrian providing inside information to human assassins would be even worse. "There," Marcus pointed to a sequence of code. "They're trying to access your upcoming travel schedule." Nova's colors darkened. "The summit. We're supposed to address the Galactic Council next week about expanding human-Lyrian cooperation." "The perfect target," Arya added, her diplomatic mind racing ahead. "If we're killed by humans while advocating for closer ties, it would spark a diplomatic crisis," Ambassador Kalzara finished, her colors paling to worried silver. Marcus made a quick decision. "We need to leak false information. Let them think they've successfully accessed your real schedule. Meanwhile, we'll take an entirely different route to the summit. Impossible, Arya protested. The route to the summit is part of sacred protocol. We must approach through the gates of harmony, be announced by the dash. And that's exactly why they'll be waiting there to kill you, Marcus cut in. He'd learned that sometimes bluntness was necessary with the tradition-bound Lyrians. Your assassins know every detail of your ceremonies. They're counting on you following them. Nova moved closer to the displays, her combat-trained mind analyzing possibilities. What do you suggest? We make them think they've won, Marcus said, already implementing his plan. I'm seeding false data showing you'll travel the traditional route. But actually. He pulled up a different star chart. We'll go in through the maintenance sectors. The maintenance sectors? Ambassador Kelzara's colors shifted in shock. Those areas are for drones and service workers, not the heirs to the assembly. Exactly why no one will look for them there, Marcus pointed out. Sometimes the best defense is being where your enemy least expects you. Arya studied the route, her diplomatic experience giving her a different perspective. The symbolic impact of arriving through service tunnels, it could actually work in our favor. Show we're willing to set aside privilege to reach out to humanity. Nova nodded, her colors warming to the idea. And tactically, the maintenance sectors have multiple escape routes, automated security, and no ceremonial requirements that would make our movements predictable. Marcus felt a surge of pride in how quickly they'd adapted to his unconventional thinking. Then he noticed something in the data streams, a pattern so subtle he almost missed it. His blood ran cold. We have a bigger problem, he said quietly. This intrusion. It's not just about the summit. They were looking for something else, something buried deep in your genetic archives. The three Lyrian women froze, their colors synchronizing in a display of shared alarm that Marcus had never seen before. Show me, Ambassador Kelzara commanded, her voice carrying an edge of fear he'd never heard before. As Marcus pulled up the data trail, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd stumbled onto something far bigger than assassination attempts. The twins weren't just being targeted for their political position, there was something in their very DNA that someone was willing to kill for. And somewhere in the embassy, watching through cameras and security feeds, that someone was planning their next move. Shattered protocols. The maintenance tunnels of the Galactic Council station hummed with ancient machinery. Marcus led the way through the shadowy passages, his enhanced combat senses alert for any threat. Behind him, Nova and Arya moved with practiced silence, their iridescent skin dimmed to match the darkness. They'd been traveling for hours through the forgotten arteries of the station, avoiding the grand ceremonial routes where assassins surely waited. Another security checkpoint ahead, Marcus whispered, consulting his modified scanner. But something's wrong. The guard rotations are off pattern. Nova glided forward, her combat training evident in every silent step. The schedules are automated. They shouldn't be off pattern at all. Exactly, Marcus replied grimly. Someone's overridden the system. We're not the only ones using these tunnels. Arya's colors shifted to a concerned violet. The genetic data they were after in the embassy. I've been analyzing it. Our DNA isn't just royal lineage, Marcus. We're carrying something else, something even we don't fully understand. Marcus had suspected as much. The assassination attempts were too sophisticated, too well-funded for simple political motivation. Whatever it is, someone thinks it's worth starting a war over. A distant clang echoed through the tunnels. Marcus raised his hand, and the twins instantly pressed against the walls, their colors shifting to match the metallic surfaces. Years of military experience told Marcus that sound wasn't maintenance drones or normal station operations. They're hurting us, he realized. These tunnels, they're not just watching them, they're controlling where we can go. Nova's eyes narrowed. If they control all paths forward, then we make our own path, Marcus finished. He pulled out a small device he'd brought despite Lyrian security protocols forbidding it. Good thing I never fully trust official routes. Arya recognized the device. That's a human phase disruptor. They're banned in Lyrian space. Which is exactly why our enemies won't be expecting it, Marcus said, placing it against the wall. Sometimes the best move is the one that breaks all the rules. The device hummed to life, creating a temporary passage through the station's internal structure. As it worked, Nova suddenly grabbed Marcus's arm, her skin flaring with alarm colors. Movement behind us. Multiple signatures, moving fast. Marcus cursed under his breath. Through here, now. He ushered the twins through the newly created passage. Just as he prepared to follow, weapons fire erupted from the darkness. Marcus dove through the opening as it sealed behind him, the phase disruptor disintegrating to prevent their path being followed. They found themselves in a vast processing chamber, automated systems swirling with strange energies. Marcus's tactical mind was already mapping escape routes when Nova's sharp intake of breath drew his attention. By the ancient stars, she whispered. This is a genetic processing center. These machines, they're designed to activate dormant DNA sequences. Arya's diplomatic experience caught the implications immediately. The assassins weren't trying to kill us. They were hurting us here specifically. Marcus's combat instincts screamed danger. We need to move. Now. But before they could reach any of the exits, the chamber's massive doors sealed with heavy thuds. Displays flickered to life around them, showing a face that made Ambassador Kelzara's warnings suddenly make terrible sense. Welcome, children of the Starborn, the figure said, its features a disturbing blend of human and Lyrian characteristics. We've been waiting millennia for ones like you. Nova and Arya's colors synchronized in shock. That's impossible, Arya breathed. The genetic merger experiments were banned before humanity even reached space. Banned, yes. But not ended. The figure smiled. Your DNA carries the key to perfecting what was started so long ago. A true fusion of human adaptability and Lyrian power. Marcus stepped forward, placing himself between the twins and the displays. You're the one who arranged their protection detail. You wanted a human bodyguard assigned to them. Very good, Marcus Vale. We needed someone who could guide them here, someone whose human instincts would choose exactly the path we prepared. The twins' DNA is dormant, you see. It needs specific conditions to activate. Conditions only possible in this chamber. Nova's combat stance shifted, ready for action. You really think we'll just allow you to experiment on us? The figure's smile widened. My dear Nova, you already have. The energy fields in this chamber have been active since you entered. Even now, your dormant genetics are awakening. And your human protector's presence, his unique biological signature, is the final catalyst we needed. Marcus felt it then, a strange resonance in the air, a vibration that seemed to pulse between him and the twins. Nova and Arya's skin began to shimmer with colors he'd never seen before, their forms seeming to blur at the edges. The question, the figure continued, is whether you'll survive the transformation. The others didn't. But then, they didn't have a human protector whose genetic compatibility rating was so perfect. Marcus's mind raced. They were trapped in a chamber designed to trigger unknown genetic changes in the twins, changes that had killed others before them. And somehow, his own presence was part of the process. He looked at Nova and Arya, seeing the fear and determination in their shifting colors. Whatever was happening, whatever they were becoming, he had sworn to protect them. Even if that meant protecting them from their own evolving DNA. The chamber hummed with increasing power, and the true battle for survival was about to begin. Evolutionary Crucible. The genetic processing chamber pulsed with otherworldly energies, each wave sending ripples of transformation through Nova and Arya. Marcus watched in a mixture of awe and horror as their iridescent skin began to emanate patterns he'd never seen before, fractals of light that seemed to bridge dimensions. Their transformation is proceeding faster than any previous subjects, the hybrid's voice echoed through the chamber. Your presence is indeed the catalyst we theorized, Mr. Vale. Your own genetic structure is already beginning to respond. Marcus felt it, a strange resonance in his cells, as if his very DNA was reaching out to the twins. But his military training hadn't failed him. Even as his body began to change, his mind remained sharp, analyzing, planning. Why, he demanded, buying time as he studied the chamber's systems. Why risk everything for this experiment? Nova's voice came out strained but determined. Because they're afraid. Aren't you? She directed this at the hybrid's image. Afraid that humanity's chaos will overwhelm Lyrian order. Or that Lyrian stagnation will prevent human innovation. We offer transcendence, the hybrid replied. A perfect fusion of both species' strengths. No more diplomatic dances, no more cultural clashes. One people, one future. Achieved through kidnapping and forced evolution, Arya managed through gritted teeth, her diplomatic skills giving way to rare anger. You would destroy both our peoples to create your perfect hybrid race. Marcus moved closer to the twins, his tactical mind working even as the chamber's energies pulled at his genetic code. He'd noticed something, the way the energy fields fluctuated when he moved, how they seemed to intensify when he got closer to Nova and Arya. You're wrong about one thing, he said to the hybrid. This isn't about perfecting either species. This is about control. These changes, they're designed to make us dependent on these chambers, aren't they? On you. The hybrid smile faltered slightly. A necessary precaution. The power you're receiving must be properly directed. Nova, Marcus whispered, his military experience recognizing the key tactical weakness. The energy fields, they're adapting to our proximity. If we can overload them. Nova's combat-trained mind caught on immediately. Despite the pain of transformation, her colors shifted to a determined copper. Arya, remember the resonance training? Like calling to like. Arya nodded, her diplomatic experience giving way to ancient Lyrian knowledge. A triple helix pattern. But Marcus would have to trust you, he finished. Completely. The hybrid's eyes narrowed. Whatever you're planning, it's useless. This chamber has contained the death throes of dozens of subjects. Your resistance is merely data for our next attempt. But Marcus was already moving. He stepped between the twins, taking their hands. The contact sent shocks through his system, their transforming DNA calling to his, trying to pull him into the same evolutionary crucible. Now. Nova commanded. Marcus felt them both reach into him, not physically but genetically, their transforming DNA creating a bridge through his human genetic code. The chamber's energy fields went crazy, trying to adapt to the unprecedented three-way connection. Impossible, the hybrid breathed. The human's genetic structure shouldn't be able to withstand. But Marcus was doing more than withstanding. His military training had taught him that sometimes victory meant embracing the pain, using it. As Nova and Arya's DNA resonated through him, he didn't fight the change, he directed it. The chamber's systems sparked and screamed. Warnings flashed across all displays as the energy fields tried to compensate for the feedback loop created by their linked genetic patterns. Stop this, the hybrid commanded. You'll destroy everything we've worked for. No, Arya said, her voice carrying new strength. We're going to show you what real evolution looks like. The transformation accelerated, but not as the hybrid had planned. Instead of being forced into a predetermined pattern, their DNA was finding its own way, guided by the strange harmony between Marcus's human adaptability and the twins' Lyrian potential. Nova's combat knowledge merged with Marcus's military experience, while Arya's diplomatic insights wove through them both. They were changing, yes, but not into what the hybrid had intended. They were becoming something entirely new, something neither human nor Lyrian had dreamed possible. The chamber's overloading systems cast strange shadows as Marcus felt the final surge begin. He tightened his grip on the twins' hands, their three-way connection reaching its peak. "Together," he said. The hybrid's last desperate command was lost in the explosion of light that followed. The chamber's energy fields collapsed, but the transformation was already complete. As the smoke cleared and emergency systems engaged, Marcus looked at Nova and Arya with new eyes, eyes that could now see across multiple spectrums of reality. They had survived, but they were no longer merely human and Lyrian. They had become living proof that evolution worked best when it wasn't forced, when it grew from trust, choice, and the courage to face change together. Now they just had to survive long enough to show both their peoples what was possible when you stopped trying to control evolution and learned to dance with it instead. Transcendence. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Marcus, Nova, and Arya entered. Their transformed appearance commanded attention, not quite human, not purely Lyrian, but something radiantly new. Marcus's military bearing remained, but now an iridescent sheen played across his skin. The twins retained their Lyrian grace, but their movements carried human unpredictability, their colors shifting with newfound emotional depth. Ambassador Kelzara stood at the central podium, her colors reflecting shock and wonder at her daughter's transformation. Around her, representatives from 100 worlds watched in stunned silence. "The hybrid faction's laboratories have been located and secured," Marcus reported, his voice carrying new harmonics that resonated with both human and Lyrian hearing. "Their leaders are in custody, but their message isn't entirely wrong, just their methods." Nova stepped forward, her combat-trained stance now augmented by an awareness that spanned multiple dimensions. "They sought to force evolution, to control the future. But true advancement cannot be forced. It must be chosen," Arya continued, her diplomatic skills enhanced by her ability to project emotional colors that all species could now perceive. "We stand before you not as an engineered solution, but as proof of what trust and cooperation can achieve." The council chamber erupted in overlapping discussions. Some representatives recoiled in fear, others leaned forward in fascination. Ambassador Kelzara raised her hand for silence. "My daughters," she said, her voice carrying both authority and emotion. "When I assigned a human protector to you, I sought only your safety. I never imagined." She paused, taking in their transformed state. "What exactly have you become?" Marcus shared a look with the twins, their enhanced connection allowing them to communicate on levels beyond words. "We've become what both our peoples could be," he answered. "Not hybrids forced into a single mold, but individuals who've learned to embrace both heritage and change." Nova demonstrated by shifting her form slightly, her colors dancing with both Lyrian precision and human creativity. "We can move between states, Ambassador. We remain ourselves, but we've gained understanding that neither species had alone." "The hybrid faction sought to eliminate differences," Arya added, her diplomatic training perfect for this moment. "We've learned to celebrate them instead. Every species here fears change, fears losing their identity to progress. We offer a different path." The human ambassador stood, his face showing both concern and hope. "You're suggesting we support this? This voluntary evolution? After what the hybrid faction tried to do?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "We're suggesting something far more radical. We're suggesting trust." He gestured, and holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the genetic processing center's data. The hybrid faction failed because they tried to force compatibility. But Nova, Arya, and I achieved something different because we chose to trust each other. To risk change together. Nova's colors shifted to emphasize the point. Our transformation worked because it was built on choice, on mutual respect. Not on one species dominating another. "The future doesn't belong to those who fear change," Arya continued, her words reaching every member of the council. Nor to those who would force it. It belongs to those brave enough to face it together. Ambassador Kalzara studied them carefully. And if we support this path? What guarantees can you offer? Marcus smiled, an expression that now carried both human warmth and Lyrian luminescence. The only guarantee that matters, freedom. Freedom to choose, to learn, to grow. Some will want to remain as they are. Others will seek to explore new possibilities. Both choices deserve respect. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. The implications were enormous, not just for humans and Lyrians, but for all species. A path to evolution that preserved choice while offering unprecedented advancement. Nova and Arya moved to stand beside Marcus, their presence together making a statement more powerful than words. They were not the product of forced hybridization, but of mutual trust and respect. Their transformation hadn't erased their differences, it had transcended them. The hybrid faction sought to eliminate chaos and enforce order, Marcus addressed the council. But life isn't about eliminating differences. It's about learning to dance with them. As if to demonstrate, Nova's colors shifted in a complex pattern that Marcus and Arya instantly matched, creating a display of coordination that was neither human nor Lyrian, but something beautifully new. The council chamber filled with gasps of wonder. We offer our experience, Arya concluded, her diplomatic skills now enhanced by both human adaptability and her new abilities. Not as a demand, but as a possibility. The future is not a destination to be feared or controlled. It's a dance, and we're all invited to join it. Ambassador Kalzara's colors shifted to a deep, thoughtful blue before brightening to a decisive gold. The Lyrian Assembly supports this proposal. She turned to the human ambassador. Will humanity join us? The human ambassador looked at Marcus, still recognizably human yet beautifully transformed, and nodded. Earth stands with the Lyrian Assembly. Let us face the future together. As the council erupted in historic debate, Marcus shared another look with Nova and Arya. Their journey had started with assassination attempts and bodyguard duty. It had led them through genetic manipulation and forced evolution. But it had ended with something far more powerful, proof that the greatest transformations come not from force or fear, but from trust, respect, and the courage to embrace change together. Their evolution wasn't an ending. It was a beginning, the first step in a dance that would transform the galaxy, one choice at a time.